in your community? Are there issues you could help address to make them happier, or if they're thinking about expanding, just building those networks between the community and the businesses really helps. Another tool we have is called the First Impressions Community Exchange Program, which is a really neat tool. It's very low cost. It consists of two communities sort of twinning, and they send little teams into each other's community incognito to kind of do a first impression review analysis. When you go into that community, what's your first impression? And they look at a number of areas: infrastructure, signage, tourism. If you're a business wanting to move to a community, what is that community telling you on your first impression? And then those teams report back to each other, and you can learn a lot of valuable information about what your community is doing well and maybe where you have some shortcomings that maybe you can address. And it's a very cheap way for a community to get some good analysis and find out what they can do. So again, this tool could also be tailored towards looking at, if you're a creative industry wanting to move to a community, what kinds of things would attract you, or an employee, what kinds of things would attract you to that community. We also have our regional field staff, such as Anne Marie, and these staff are a wealth of knowledge and information, and they work very closely with communities and businesses, giving them advice, helping them find funding pockets that are available, providing them with tools and resources like the business retention and expansion and the first impressions. They can really help communities get these tools and teach them how to use them to do their economic development planning. One of the areas that I'll just kind of give an example where OMAFRA has been successful in supporting the creative economy is around culinary tourism. It's a natural fit for our ministry with food processors, rural communities. There's lots of connections there between urban people traveling to rural communities and wanting to have that cultural and culinary experience. And culinary regions allow similar businesses to cluster together. So another tool we have is called our Savor Ontario Dining Program, which encourages people to go to restaurants that feature local Ontario-grown food. It's a branding. A restaurant can have the Savor Ontario branding if they have a certain amount of their menu as local Ontario food. And the goal of this program was to help connect people in the food chain, the businesses in the food chain, from the farmers to the food suppliers, distributors, retailers, restaurants, chefs, build those linkages, those networks, and that is part of the creative economy, building those partnerships. And many of these businesses are located in rural Ontario, from the farmers to the markets to the fine dining establishments. So this really has been a good tool for us to help promote Ontario-grown food. And it really is a neat tool because we're creating a provincial brand, so restaurants don't have to put a lot of money into marketing because it's a provincially recognized brand, but they can make it their own. They can have their own local menu. So in Niagara, they could be featuring menu around peaches when peach season is in, and somewhere up in Muskoka can be featuring cranberries when cranberries are in. So they can tailor it to their own local food, but they can have that broader provincial recognition. And it is creating those relationships between, as I said, the whole food chain, and is creating that culinary experience. We also have a funding program, the Ontario Market Investment Fund, that will fund research and marketing and building of local food networks. So we do have some money to help support growing those networks. And there is an example around Fifth Town Artisan Cheese that received money. They'll be using that money to do some of their promotion through their website, those brochures, advertising, doing some marketing research, but linking again to the culinary tourism in the Prince Edward County area. And I think that's it for me. I'll turn it over to Anne-Marie.
So with all of that information, I am sure you can imagine there's always going to be some issues and challenges. In particular, in this case, smaller communities have found it a little bit difficult to develop economic action plans or strategies focused on just the creative economy. A lot of them have limited staff, expertise, and funding, so some of these programs may assist in that. The other issue that's happened, or more of a challenge really, is that people need to start thinking of the creative economy beyond arts and culture, finding a common understanding of the concept. We see a lot of this, especially in the smaller rural areas, where maybe the municipal councils don't quite understand exactly what is meant by the creative economy. They have a picture of these bohemian artists, on Main Street. So, we do need to do some education around that as well. It's also not just niche economic development. It does require some strategy as well. Growth in the creative economy results in change, and change can be a mixed blessing, especially, again, in rural communities. We see a lot of that happening. It's not the answer for all communities. Each community has their own strengths and assets, and economic development strategies should focus on building those assets. And I think Alita's part of the presentation really made that clear as well. You need to look at where you're going there. So in terms of